Our next speaker is Gábor Jandácsik, Chief Risk Officer at OTP Bank Albania, who will discuss how renewable electricity can reduce our carbon footprint and protect against rising prices. Please welcome him on the stage.
Electricity, footprint, carbon. We are not going to submerge in science, technology details. I will instead walk you through the journey, the learning journey I had when preparing, and I try to make this something that you can connect to as a country citizen and a family man, and I try to distract you from your smartphones. The title suggests a lot. It suggests that this is a no-brainer. Because it's usually understood, renewable electricity as a no-fuel technology. Thus, no fuel means no emissions, but also means zero cost. If this is it, I can save you 9 minutes for networking. But before, is it that simple? And if it is, then why is it not happening so more quickly? And second, if a country like Albania, where I'm an expat from Hungary, so a country like Albania covers 100% from renewable electricity of its own electricity needs, has the job been done? Let's see this in the remaining 9 minutes. Carbon footprint. This is the heart of the climate crisis. The way we have been producing energy for 200 years now. Before that, we have the human and the animal power. We still say horsepower. By the way, a healthy human can also sustain 0.1 horsepower. So if we all 400 would be here, we would have like 40 horsepower. What an underpowered car we would be, right? And what an underpowered mega yacht we would be, right? Back to the text. So after that came burning of wood, coal, oil, waste, and so on. And for 200 years now, we have been increasing the carbon emission at a steady rate of a bit more than 1.5%, and renewables has been at steady 20% for some decades now. But contexts are different. In high-income countries, emissions are falling. In EU, it's falling at a bit less than 1.5% rate over the last decade. The US decreases roughly half than that. Because decreasing, it could decrease because they are already consuming at a comfortable level and they are importing a lot. Energy infrastructure is old, so they can economically replace it by a less emitting one. Other countries have a different context. Living standards are to be improved, which needs more energy. Infrastructure is young, not necessarily a low emission one, typically on the contrary. But now, let's see some real figures. A country, Albania, where I work, and a middle-income Hungarian family, which is my case, just to have some real figures. Albania is a good case to analyze, as it has an exemplary high portion, almost 100% renewable electricity generation for its own electricity needs. It is visible in the almost invisible electricity-linked carbon emission. But the job has not been done, as it is well reflected in the country's NDC, nationally determined contribution. Production up there is almost totally the cement industry. Cement industry's private foreign companies' calcination emission, only that part. For the heat energy they use, there is another similar amount down there in the other energy category. On the household side, secondary means products. That's my family of 4 people. On the household side, secondary means products purchased at the emission, with an emission occurred at the production of clothes, food, books, furniture, devices. I guess the is self-explanatory. The figures are weight of carbon dioxide equivalent emitted in the air per year. This is now globally some 60 gigatons. The figure is a little bit higher than what Masha mentioned because this is broader. It's a broader category. This is what should be the net zero, the global goal for 2050. And that should decrease by a quarter in midterm to limit the temperature rise below 2 degrees. And we all know that the world is not on the right track. Albania stands at 40% of the EU per capita footprint, while my family is somewhere halfway in between the two. Factors behind: different living standards, different efficiency of consuming devices, and Hungary's high portion, almost 40%, more than 40% of nuclear electricity, while on the other hand, Albania has a high portion of renewable electricity. Let's now identify the areas where a family can directly influence the footprint by renewable electricity. And in case of Albania, let's see where the country's program focuses are. So the program, in case of Albania, is focusing on electricity, more hydro for more production, and in the wood category, to replace firewood and prevent wildfires. Wildfires is hugely important, as it could add a hefty 50% carbon emission to the country's total in a bad year. It's very important globally too. In a recent year, global wildfires emitted more than 2 times more than the total EU did. I guess Martin later will address this in details. You can also notice that wood is a net emitter, even in normal years. A normal year is shown there. This is because of firewood and fuel wood. Other energy is mostly oil and mostly used in transportation. The household direct control, apart from consuming less of everything, falls in the category of grid electricity, and the combustion engine car and the gas boiler are also options. Since we are talking about renewable electricity, let's first see the impact if we switch to that, but based on the existing usage, existing consumption technology. Here are the results. Albania has already been fully covering its current electricity needs in quantities in a good rainy year with renewable electricity. So by adding new hydropower plants, Skavica is the flagship project, together with large-scale ongoing solar projects, will only secure the domestic needs in any year, and it will enable the country to even become net exporter. Although these are huge and important and good steps, no impact is seen on the emission chart on the producer country level, but the importers will have the saving. On the family house, some solar panel appeared, but without changing the consumption technology, the impact is limited. Limited mostly due to the already relatively low carbon emission content of the Hungarian electricity, which is by almost half, as I mentioned earlier, nuclear-based. 1/3 is gas-based, as in between the two, there is a visible portion of renewables as well. Still, as solar has zero emission, there is some decrease. Now, what if we move on and combine renewable electricity production with further electrification? We encounter a scale problem. Only in the country example, but seeing the household first, explaining the household first, will explain this. So a household or an individual can switch from one consumption technology to another relatively quickly, provided technical solutions and products are available. And it can be done especially painlessly if the existing technology is about to retire. It's about the end of the lifespan. This is the case in my household. The gas boiler is 17 years old and the car is 21. The rooftop can accommodate more panels, no environment issue here, which there is in case of large solar project. More panel is needed in order to feed the replacement heating device. Just a few words about that, which is going to be a heat pump instead of a gas boiler. A heat pump is a great device. It can multiply the electricity by draining extra heat energy from its environment and then gradually transmitting back to its own environment, as no house isolation is perfect. So overall, there is no environment impact here. And second, it's needed to feed the electric car. Now, as for the electric car, I eliminated only half of the previous emission due to its limitations. This is the weak point in the story. Volvo carmaker just reported that by their calculation, the electric car production emits 70% more carbon, and therefore it will start saving the emission only after 9 years using the global energy supply. And over the full lifespan, it will make only a slim 15% emission saving compared to a traditional version of the same car. However, on EU supply, energy supply, this is 30%. Since the example case is fully powered by solar electricity, I eliminated half, so this 50% could be a good estimation. Solar panel production footprint is small, but not negligible. After 2-3 years, it reaches the break-even. In case of the country, the changes take long years or decades. This is called system inertia. Combustion cars and trucks are unlikely to disappear on their own in decades. Plus, in case of Albania, there is a gap of 60% living standards compared to EU, and this will shrink. And this will bring the country hand in hand with the projected 50% GDP increase at a new basis of roughly 50% more carbon emission. Figures as they are in the NDC, between 16 and 30. So this is 50% more, 5 million tons more without mitigation programs, which Albania has. A planned electric railway between the main port in Durrës, the main airport in Rinas, and the capital city Tirana, project underway. Car electrification program for taxis in Tirana, car electrification in general, up to 10% share in kilometer by 2030, public transportation development in the cities. Total mitigation, including improvement in the wood department, less firewood, prevent wildfires, will possibly and hopefully mitigate 3 million tons out of the 5 organic increase. No decrease is possible. In the household example, a 50,000 euro investment, including the price difference between the traditional and the electric car, would cut the emission down to almost half. And then comes the smarter and more modest consumption impact, less flights, carefully chosen, and less consumer products. I think it's appealing, however, not in financial terms. The return of the investment is something 12 years, based on the actual consumer energy prices. On the other hand, since prices are not reflecting all the externalities, future costs might jump extreme, and they will justify the investment. And now, the rising prices. Energy cost is part of everything, of every price. Inflation is well known and painfully experienced. In general, price is a market phenomenon, thus demand supply determined. Now we are focusing on the supply side, meaning on the production cost. Inflation, the bold line, chart below, we know the future scenarios, and the rest is just some takeaway you can read. You read. And then I pass the stage to the next speaker. Thank you.